Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, SDF political party. John Fundi has been kidnapped again. He was picked up earlier today at his Ntarikon residence in the northwest regional chief town, Bamenda. We shall be giving you details with our correspondent in this newscast. And also in this newscast, we'll talk about the involvement of the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in the process of finding solutions to the deepening Anglophone crisis. Our reporter Hermine Luga talked to some political leaders here in the economic capital of the country, and you will hear them in this newscast. We'll also talk about sports with the smart side of the 2019 AFCON. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this edition of the news on Equinox Television. We begin this with this news streaming into our newsroom. The national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, SDF political party, John Fundi, has been kidnapped again by unidentified persons. A communique published by the Minister of Communication, the Shadow Cabinet Minister of Communication of the Social Democratic Front, Jean-Robert Wafo, indicates that the kidnappers stormed the Ntarikon residence of the national chairman, armed, and shot the one of the bodyguards of the national chairman of the SDF before taking away the national chairman to an unknown destination. Until now, his whereabouts remains unknown. We'll be getting to our correspondent who is on standby, the northwest regional captain, notably at the Ntarikon residence of the national chairman, in the course of this newscast. Now we're going to talk about the involvement of the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in the Anglophone crisis. That department of the Swiss government has made it clear that it's going to mediate in the resolution of the Anglophone crisis. And our reporter Hermine Luga talked to some political analysts here in the economic capital, Douala, and compiled this report.
For Foreign Affairs in Switzerland is henceforth concerned about the continuing violence in the northwestern southwest regions of Cameroon, which is taking a heavy toll on the population. History has it, Switzerland has long been committed both at bilateral and multilateral level and has now been tasked by a majority of the parties with facilitating an inclusive negotiation process. The update has spurred reactions of political actors.
Mr. Biya, don't talk. We are waiting for him. It is very far. We are waiting that Biya says that this is my position about this. He sent on only his messengers here, down, get up. You know that before obtaining our independence, we struggled to continue. We have a chance that we have that great opportunities that has been given by Sweden country. Okay, Sweden country has to approach us. We shall concoct it. As part of the way of doing before having peace.
According to the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs, 2 meetings have already taken place on its territory with the objective of preparing the future peace negotiations between the Cameroon government and the political opposition. Approximately thousands of persons have lost their lives as a result of the crisis and over 530,000 persons displaced as a result of the same crisis, according to the United Nations, and this with increasing calls for dialogue to end the third crisis.
That was Hermine Luga reporting there on the involvement of the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in efforts to resolve the Anglophone crisis that has been pulling on for close to 3 years today, and many persons have continued to be killed, hundreds of thousands kicked out of their homes, and they have simply become internally displaced persons in parts of the northwest, southwest, the littoral, the west, the center, and other parts of the country. And hundreds of thousands are equally refugees in neighboring Nigeria, and many continue to be kidnapped, with the last case, as I indicated earlier, being that of the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, SDF, a political party, John Fundi, who was picked up earlier today at about 4 p.m. at his Ntarikon residence in the northwest regional chief town, Bamenda. And of course, he was picked up, as indicated, by the party's shadow cabinet minister of communication, Jean-Robert Wafo, by unidentified armed gunmen who took him to an unknown destination, and his whereabouts remains unknown. Our correspondent in the town of Bamenda, Frederick Takang, is on the line to the Ntarikon residence of the national chairman.
Presently, I am at the residence of the national chairman, John Fundi of the Social Democratic Front, who was kidnapped 2 hours ago at about 4 p.m. at the residence. According to eyewitness, the chairman of the Social Democratic Front was at home preparing to take his meal when unknown gunmen came along with heavy weapon and took him away. One of his bodyguards, who tried to make some resistance about taking his chairman away, was shot at his leg and is presently going under treatment at the regional hospital in Bamenda. For now, it is not certain why or the reason behind this kidnapping of the chairman is not yet known, but according to eyewitness, the modus operandi of those who came along, it seems like they were separatist fighters who are operating since 2016 in the northwest and the southwest region. No statement for now for the regional chairman of the SDF in Bamenda has been made, but the kidnapping was confirmed by the Minister of Communication for the Shadow Cabinet, Jean-Robert Wafo, in his communique just issued some few hours after the kidnapping.
Our correspondent in Bamenda, Frederick Takang, reporting there from the Ntarikon residence of the national chairman, and we will be bringing to you updates as soon as we are informed concerning the kidnapped, the abduction of the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, John Fundi. And as our correspondent indicated there, it is not the first time the national chairman is kidnapped by unidentified gunmen. The first time was during the while he was on his way to Kumbu for the burial of one of the members of parliament of that political party, and he was kidnapped and released after several hours. As of now, the whereabouts of the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front remains unknown. And now we taking you to Konsamba in the Mongo Division, littoral region of Cameroon, to talk about the death of a 25-year-old man who died, a 25-year-old young man who died in unclear circumstances. We have details in this report compiled by Immaculate Fogwe.
The pain of losing a loved one is what they are expressing. Tiwa Derek Franklin, age 25, who hails from Bambutus in the west region of Cameroon, but living in the town of Melong, died mysteriously on 27th of June 2019 after having breakfast at a local restaurant that sells puff balls, beans and pap. He died in the midst of other customers who were equally taking breakfast. The owner of the restaurant, whose daughter was at the scene, called the mother to explain what happened. I prepared all what I had to sell and sent my children to my job site. At about 9 a.m., I heard my phone ringing. When I picked, my daughter told me one of the customers who was taking his breakfast just collapsed. I hurriedly rushed there and realized he was still breathing. I later asked the guys who were around to help me carry him to the hospital, but they told me he was already dead. Tiwa Derrick's elder sister confirms that she was with her younger brother in the morning and he never complained of suffering from any malaise. I was at home when my phone rang. When I picked the call, I was told my brother was dead. I rushed to the scene to witness what had happened. My brother carried me this morning on his motorcycle to the farm. One of his friends who was with him that morning says he never showed any sign of being sick. I don't know what must have caused his death. He carried me on his bike this morning. I was called up and told he went to take his breakfast. The forces of law and order are currently carrying out investigations to unveil the real cause of his death.
Militants of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) political party in Sang-Melima are in a daggers drawn, so to speak. The militants recently provoked a violent demonstration at Radio Colombe in the Sang-Melima in the Ja and Lobo division of the South region of Cameroon, and that led to some destruction recorded in that radio station. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Few days after the dramatic incident that occurred at the Colombe Community Radio in Sang-Melima in the Jan Lobo Division, South region of Cameroon on the 24th of June 2019, the scars of that tragic incident are still visible. I was in the broadcast room listening to a live program that started at 9 p.m. and was being presented by the station manager with the CPDM section president of the Ja and Lobo 1, who was one of the panelists. When I heard the footstep of someone trying to open the door, I hurriedly went there to check who it was, and I noticed it was Monsieur Egamba Clotaire. He came towards me asking where the roundtable discussion was taking place. I asked him to calm down because there was a live program going on. He pushed me and went directly to the studio and ransacked the whole place. He is equally the person who shattered the windscreens of these vehicles. The presenter of the program, alongside his panelists, were given hard punches on the face and whole body, causing the presenter to become partially handicapped. When he got into the studio, he asked us to stop the program and started breaking and shattering all what he could find in the studio. When I asked why he was doing such an act, he came towards me and gave me a hard punch, causing me to fall and incur an injury. Such an act has been condemned by some of the panelists and equally by local inhabitants of that area. It is not by being radical that issues can be solved. Problems are solved amicably. I condemn such actions. The forces of law and order are currently investigating the root cause of the matter.
In sports, the indomitable Lions of Cameroon are stepping up preparations ahead of the encounter against the Black Stars of Ghana. That will be their second encounter in the upcoming on the ongoing 2019 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. And ahead of that encounter, indomitable Lions head coach Clarence Sidorf spoke to the press today. Take a listen.
We're ready, and today we will have our last training. Focus on our players first, and Ghana has a great team, so eventually, if you won't play, there will be another good player on the field. But we're confident. Yeah, I mean, I think you understand that we don't live in the past, but I think there's a rivalry between Ghana and Cameroon that will be forever. So I don't think anything is needed of a last result, but again. We will take match by match, and now we're preparing for this big match. But we also know that this is an open match and that things can be reopened after this match. So we're going for the victory. There's no draw in our heads. We will play for victory always. But obviously, the tactics and the pressure is definitely more on Ghana. because we have 2 results, if you want to look at it like that. But to get the best result, we need to go for the victory, and that's what we will do. Everything is possible because, as you've seen until now, we have always used most of our players because we have a very balanced team. There are a lot of players that are on the bench, all of them practically that can play first 11. So we will look today finally at the conditions of everybody and then make a final decision on that. And actually continuing already what this group has shown me over the course of the last 9 to 10 months, and especially in the last 3 weeks. It has been, despite the controversy, a group that has shown incredible motivation in the training session.
That was an Indomitable Lions head coach Clarence Seedorf speaking there to the press, and the Ghanaian head coach and captain equally spoke to the press today, and they recognized the fact that the encounter is going to be difficult, is going to be a difficult one, especially the fact that they are playing against the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon, a great football team, a great football nation. But they said they are prepared to encounter the Lions and make a win. Smanjikan Gabriel, you're welcome.
Yes, good evening to you, Babila. And as you rightly put it, we're going to begin with the Black Stars of Ghana this evening to talk about Purple Stadium. We already discussed about Clarence Seedorf, who has made himself known and what he has against the Black Stars. And it should be noted, tomorrow we might see a new captain for the Indomitable Lions, who is none other than the main man that they call George Manjek. You know, he was the one who was at the press conference this evening with Clarence Seedorf. We talk about Ghana, who are going to be the opponent of Cameroon. It should be noted that they had a training session. They had a training session earlier on today, and that training session was without captain Andre Ayew, who was not actually part of the training session that took place today in that is in Ismailia and Egypt. It should be noted that Andre Ayew was actually seen going out of the training pitch. That was yesterday, and today he decided to sit down and watch his teammates. Maybe we'll get the picture of Andre Ayew, who was actually sitting and watching his colleagues who were training. That was earlier on today before the press conference that took place this evening. Andre Ayew might be the key absentees, the main person who will be going out of the Ghanaian squad. Now, talking about the head-to-head history between Cameroon and Ghana, it should be noted both sides have played at least 4 times. Tomorrow will be the 5th time Ghana and Cameroon will be playing, but it will be important for us to note that Ghana has never beaten Cameroon. On doing these 4 outings, Cameroon has beaten Ghana at least 3 times and 1 ending in a draw. The last meeting between these 2 sides was in 2017 when Cameroon beat Ghana by 2-0. So the match is going to be an interesting one that will be coming up tomorrow out there in Ismailia. Now we talk about other things. It should be noted that later on this evening, South Africa will be taking on Namibia. It will be the first ever South African derby. That is the Southern African derby countries from that end that will be playing their game in the African Cup of Nations. And according to our record book, you can see that from their last 16 matches, South Africa has won 1, lost 8, and drawn 7, scored 12 goals, and considered 25. They will be playing against their brothers, who may put it that way, because they are coming from the same zone, that is in the Southern African zone. And for us, we are going to take a quick review of the games that were played yesterday. First, we talk about this first East African derby that is between Kenya and Tanzania. That match took place yesterday. It was the last game that we watched yesterday in the course of the African Nations Cup. And it should be noted that Tanzania started leading. Kenya came from behind to beat Tanzania by 3-2, and it should be noted Kenya are top opponent now for them to qualify to the next stage of the competition. Tanzania will need to work extremely hard for them to keep their hopes alive as 3rd best place in the tournament that is ongoing in Egypt. And to note that in the course of this event, we had a name, they call him Olunga Michael. He is one of those who actually created sensation in the course of this encounter between Kenya and Tanzania. And to note, as we earlier mentioned, Babila, is going to be a very tough match. If our technicians do let us see this, maybe the last issue on this, we talk about this guy they call Zezinho. He was the captain of Guinea-Bissau in their game they played against Cameroon. This is what we just pointing out. We don't know if he was actually using he was using something supernatural to play football, but we spotted something on Zezinho's body. Maybe we see that picture of Zezinho that we spotted while he was talking with the referee when Cameroon played against Guinea-Bissau. That was in the first encounter. Maybe our technicians will help us for us to get that picture. At that place where we see that arrow pointing, he had something tied on his waist, which many people believed it was something supernatural that he was using to play football. So they are advising that they shouldn't use supernatural things to play football. So to note again, this evening we are having games that will be coming up. The first East and first North and West African derby ended in a tie, 1-1 between Mali and Tunisia. The second game, Morocco Ivory Coast, is ongoing, and tomorrow we might come up with the update of these encounters.
Thanks, Sportman Smart Njikan Gabriel. Now coming up, Talking Point. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the Talking Points, and we receiving a gospel musical artist, a gospel musician, and with her we're going to take a look at some of the issues highlighted in the news, notably the situation in the northwest and the southwest region of the country, with the recent kidnap of the northwest, the south, the Social Democratic Front national chairman John Fundi, and of course the situation in the northwest in general. And of course we're going to talk some issues concerning music. You're welcome, madam.
Good evening, Babila. Good evening, Cameroon.
Right. What's your take on what's been happening in the northwest and the southwest regions of the country? First, the kidnapping of the John Fundi, the national chairman of the SDF.
I must say this is one of the shocking news I've got this evening. And then I'm asking myself, where are we heading to? When this thing started, I thought it was a joke. It is not a bad thing for a country to have war or to go through crisis. Even in the Bible we see such things. But I knew this was going to come to an end very soon. And at a time when we think that the problem is almost shifting to an end, new strategies, new provocations, I don't know, I can call them provocations, because it is noted that he has been kidnapped by unknown gunmen. Now who are we going to ask? Is it the Cameroon military force or the restoration forces? All of us are in confusion, and the take I have on this is just let God intervene. Let his will be done, because this is really getting out of hand. It's like the Northwest elites, they really want to do away with all of them.
All right.
We're
now,
praying God intervention.
You're an artist, and politicians have been talking, civil society leaders talking, and everybody talking on the Anglophone crisis. What are musicians saying? What are musicians doing?
As musicians, we are ministers of the gospel. The difference is that we don't stand on pulpits to preach. We pass the message through songs, and we have been singing. There are people who have come up with peace songs. I have Mommy Tilda, who has been singing. She has sung a lot of peace songs and other artists. Besides the peace songs, we as gospel artists in Cameroon, we have been on our knees. We have been praying. That is what is happening physically is something that has been planted in the spiritual. And for it to cease physically, it must be ceased in the spiritual. And that is why the gospel artists of Cameroon are on their knees, crying day and night, let God intervene.
the content of the artist, the contents of the album you're launching this Saturday, has it got some elements of preaching peace messages concerning the Northwest and the South?
Yes, there is a song I have done, Do Not Cry, because at the appointed time, God will step in. That song is talking to Cameroon. We might go through crisis. It is normal. It is part of life. Like they say, life is full of ups and downs, but don't think that it is the end, because at the appointed time, God is going to step in. And that song, Do Not Cry, is actually the title of the whole album, an album of 7 tracks.
In that, in the song or in the album, are you sending some messages to the pro-independence fighters who are in the bushes, to the government who are expected to solve this problem, to the authorities and so on?
In another song,
Cameroonians in general?
In another song titled You Can Only Go to Heaven Through Christ, I have pleaded, called on people to depend on Christ. I am equally talking to the Cameroonian government. I'm talking to the freedom fighters. While we do this, we should depend on God and also hear what He has to say for us.
All right. So, in your own opinion, where is the way out? Depending on God only, what should be taken as actions? What are some of the actions that should be taken? Just depending on God, just praying will not be enough.
Yeah, my teachers once told me that you need to put your bucket of water on your knee so that God can put it on your head. What does that mean? While we pray and wait on God, we need to also take some physical actions. We have been hearing that there is going to be a peace talk. We are waiting on the government to come to a dialogue. I don't know what is keeping this dialogue this long. Who is supposed to initiate the dialogue? And I know the government for now is at the head, and as the head of the government, of the family, it is supposed to initiate a dialogue. This has to come to an end.
All right. In the meantime, you're inviting all Cameroonians to hook on to Jesus, expecting a solution, and those are some of the things that you're preaching in your song that you're going to be launching this Saturday here in Douala.
Yes, that is it. Well, so I want to say that if you have not known how to do it on your own in your house, come to Valet Bisenge tomorrow at 5 p.m. Join me there. They say that praise and worship brings down the presence of God. And God can never come down and go back and we remain the same. Why we call on Him, why we cry on Him to intervene, we also need to thank Him. The Bible says in every situation we have to give thanks to God, because it is the will of God through Christ for us. So the song, the main song in my album is Thank You, Lord. I'm thanking God for all the things He has done. So Cameroon as a whole, we have to join me tomorrow so that we thank God, because as we thank Him, He is going to do something in our lives, and our lives will never remain the same again.
Confidence Kumi, that's it?
That's my name.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, thanks,
ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.